Hello and welcome to CGTN's live streaming, Sharing the Path with Friend, a China-Africa media dialogue. Today we are very honored to join by four of our guests from Africa. So please, first, let's introduce yourself.
Okay, my name is Suleiman Ahmed. I'm from Eritrea. I'm a columnist in Haddas Eritrea newspaper, which is published in my country.
Yeah. Mr. Rawlings?
Thank you very much. My name is Rawlings Otieno. I'm a senior political and parliamentary reporter with People's Daily, Kenya. I'm glad to be here.
And Mr. Raphael?
Thank you very much for the invitation. I am Raphael Luni, the editor, Diplomat Expert magazine, presenter, Diplomat on radio. I'm so glad to join you this evening.
And Mr. Samuel?
Yeah, thank you very much for this opportunity. My name is Samuel Ayama. I work with the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation as a reporter. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us today. And the topic today, I bet all of you have realized that it's actually an African proverb. So there is an African proverb saying a friend is someone who share the path with. So can you share with us the African version of it in Swahili, right?
Okay, rafiki ni mtu ambaye unatembea naye kwa njia moja.
Wow, cool.
Yeah,
Thank you. And
In Yoruba, we say, "Enita ba mbadore lamfio no ho oni oreni."
yeah, I can already feel the colorful vibe of the African continent. Yes, and in the past decades, China has joined hand in hand with African brothers and sisters and have created so many magnificent achievements in the past decades. And when we talk about friends, we will review how the friendship started. So everybody, would you like to share with us how China and your country's diplomatic relations is established? So Mr. Solomon?
Okay, it's good to explain about the relationship of Eritrea and China and how it begins. China and Eritrea have historical relationship that goes 20 to almost 40, 50 years back. We got our independence in 1991, but the China and the China and Eritrea relationship was since our independence, since our struggle for independence. Even after independence, our relationship with China is going well. Now the two countries' relationship is deep and progressing well in many aspects, like economically, culturally, or something. It's a very nice diplomatic relationship. We have many Chinese companies in Eritrea, like mining company, like what we call it construction company, and there is also solar power planting company. As we know that Eritrea is located in the East Africa along the Red Sea coast, which has a great advantage for such like big countries like China to have good relationship to make with Eritrea. So we can say that the two countries' relationship is like mutual, depends on mutual benefit. What we call it like win-win interest, I think.
Interest, yes.
This is, in short, I can explain that the historical background of the two countries' relationship.
Yeah, it's a very memorable one. And about Kenya?
Thank you.
Well, Kenya and China has had a very good cordial relationship, and the Kenya-China relationship began in 1963. It's the same year that Kenya gained its independence from the British colony. So it went well until 1967. Then there was a temporary halt between the relationship. Then again in 1978, Kenya renewed its relationship with China. And since then, there has been a very good diplomatic relationship with China. And among the global countries that is trading with Kenya, China is one of the largest countries that is a trading partner with Kenya. And about even the relationship, it did not just start in 1963. There is a Chinese navigator called Mr. Zheng, who toured,
Yes.
who toured the Kenyan coast in the 15th century. So you can see that even before Kenya signed an official document with for the diplomatic relationship, there was an already China-Kenya relationship even before then. So the relationship has been good. When President Uhuru Kenyatta in 2017, he met President Xi Jinping, and they renewed this relationship to be a more of a greater partnership between Kenya and China. Thank you.
Yes, and also CGTN has a production center there in Kenya.
Nairobi, yes.
In Nairobi,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
And how about Nigeria?
Well, thank you very much. Nigeria and China relation is very cordial. We have a long-standing relationship, and basically we started a bilateral relation on the 10th of February 1971, meaning we have had 53 years of diplomatic relations. So come February next year, it will be 54 years. It has been wonderful. It has been excellent. It has been a win-win situation. And back home in Nigeria, we have a lot of Chinese companies doing well. The Chinese people are always there, giving helping hand to our economy. The trade relation between China and Nigeria as of 2020 is over 10 billion. I can say authoritatively that China is #1 trading mission with Nigeria. As far as Africa is concerned, Nigeria and China has the #1 when it comes to relation. Then over the years, Chinese government has been bringing a lot of Nigerians over. There are expat trading. Expats are being trained here in agriculture. There's a female now driving a train with Nigeria, trained here. So the relationship span very well, and Nigeria always support China well. And then in 2017, His Excellency Wang Yi was in Nigeria, January to be precise, and January 11, Nigeria and China signed an MOU on the One China policy, and from that time, the relationship has been skyrocketing, it has been on. And remember, you recall very well that in September we had FOCAC here, and my president was here. He met with President Xi Jinping, and it was agreed that they are scaling the relationship from strategic to a comprehensive one. So when you say strategic, that is like in one side, but now it's comprehensive. So there's a lot we can talk about Nigeria and China. It has been win-win situation.
Exactly. And I also have noticed that you have a pin here.
Yes.
Showing the Nigeria.
The Nigeria and China. So
yes.
Back home, I'm a friend of the Chinese. So some people even call me Mr. China. It's only because I don't have a white skin like you. But anything China, I'm always there.
Yeah. And also you have the CIIE pin, right?
Yes.
In Shanghai.
We were in Shanghai. My colleagues were in Shanghai for the CIIE. So, and I cherish the pin. It's golden, so I have to wear it.
Yes. CIIE stands for China International Import Expo.
Definitely.
Yes,
Thank
here in Shanghai. Okay, about Mr. Samuel, how about the Ghana-China relation?
Yes, you know, Ghana is the firstborn of Africa. I say the firstborn of Africa because Ghana is the first country to have gained independence in Africa. That is 6 March 1957 that we gained an independence under the British colony. And then in 1960, that is 5th July 1960, Ghana, that was our first president, Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, established Ghana and then China diplomatic relations. So we started that relation in 1960. Then it moved on to 1966, where there was a halt. There was 1 or 2 issues that was some coup d'etat led to these halts. And then in 1972, China and then Ghana diplomatic relations restored again. Then from then, it moved on smoothly till date. And then even in early 1990, Ghana, the Chinese government rewarded Ghana with our national theater. It was built by the Chinese government as a reward for supporting China in the 1989 Tiananmen Square protests. So Ghana supported China and the reward was for them to come and build us a national theater. So it's a very huge facility in Ghana, built by the Chinese government as a support for during the war and the Indian War. All of them, the first president, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, played a key role in these relations. So since then, we've had a couple of support from China. Like I always mention, yes, Africa, for instance, we need China in a lot of areas because as we speak, before COVID, Ghana had over 6,000 students studying here in China on scholarship. Then as we speak, we have over 3,000 students from Ghana who are studying in China here. And then we have a lot of support, even about 2-3 weeks ago, China, under the Chinese grant, they constructed the fishing harbor for us, and it has been commissioned by our president. And then even recently, we had serious issues on our financial status in Ghana, where we had to go to IMF. And then throughout the restructuring process, China supported us a lot. Even during the FOCAC, when my president came here, he lauded the Chinese government and then the people of China for that support. So I can say that China-Ghana relations has been very smooth and solid since 1960.
Yes, it's so good to hear the profound history of our friendship. Yeah, between China and Africa, there are several mechanisms to support the cooperation between the China and African countries. So FOCAC is one of it. We have noticed that this year in September, FOCAC, the annual meeting of FOCAC was held here in Beijing. And also many African presidents has come to Beijing to meet with President Xi. When there. So would you please share with us your understanding of FOCAC's benefits and how they foster the development of African countries under this mechanism? So I would like to start with Mr. Rawlings about Kenya's situation.
Thank you very much. I would say that the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation has been very beneficial to the African countries. I remember during the FOCAC that was held in Beijing in September, President Xi Jinping pledged $60 billion towards African countries. And looking at my country, Kenya, for instance, there are quite a number of projects that have been done by the Chinese government. One of the most significant is the standard gauge railway that connects Nairobi, the capital city, with the coastal town of Mombasa. That's about 492 kilometers. So apart from that, there are various projects, road infrastructural projects that have been done by the Chinese government. We also have the clean energy. We have got solar panels that have been established by the Chinese government in a county called Garissa. So apart from that, we also have the geothermal that's being done by the Chinese government. So I would say that there are quite a number of projects that are being done courtesy of this China-Africa cooperation. And apart from Kenya, other countries in Africa have also benefited immensely from the Chinese support, not just in terms of the funds that is coming to Africa. One of the there's a Chinese who came to Kenya and established the first e-commerce. It's called Kilimall. It's a replica of what you have here, like Pindodo, Taibo. So Kilimall is the first that was done by the Chinese in Africa, and we are proud as Kenyans that the Chinese felt to come and establish such an e-commerce platform in Kenya. So the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation is a laudable initiative that should be supported going into the future. It has created so many employment opportunities. It has uplifted several families from poverty to some level. It has made different countries to have very beautiful infrastructural projects. Right now, in the last 2 years, one of the Chinese companies was constructing the Nairobi Expressway. Before, we used to take about 1 to 2 hours from the Nairobi CBD to the airport. Now, because of the Nairobi Expressway, we only take about 9 minutes. So I would say that this is something that should be laudable. It should be supported. I hope that Forum on China-Africa Cooperation will continue, and after 3 years, after the pledge of the 60 billion towards Africa, we hope again to see more support in terms of infrastructure, in terms of clean energy, such kind of support coming towards Africa to help Africa uplift themselves from where they are to where China is, and I believe that is possible. Thank you.
Wow. Among your reporting experiences, I'm very curious. What's your favorite project, or what's your most impressive project you have covered?
Well, not just one. I've covered 3. One, the first biggest Chinese project in Kenya was the Thika Superhighway. That before it used to be just a dual carriageway. Now it's an 8-lane dual carriageway spanning about 40 kilometers from Nairobi to Thika. So it's the first superhighway that we're having in Kenya, courtesy of the Chinese. Then the second one is the standard gauge railway from Nairobi to Mombasa, around 492 kilometers. Then the third one is the Nairobi Expressway. Those are very significant projects that has really changed the landscape of Kenya. Yeah.
So it's all about highways and expressways.
Yes,
So
yes.
speaking of this, have you experienced China's high-speed rail?
Yes.
This time?
Yeah, this time around we traveled by high-speed train from Shanghai to Beijing. It's about 4 hours. It was a lovely experience. It was a very nice experience. Yeah.
Did you take the coin change that you can just make the coin standing there still? Yeah.
No, unfortunately I didn't, but I wish I did.
Next time
Yeah,
you can try it.
next time I can try that. Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Thank
and
you.
then, Mr. Sulema, I'm very curious about Eritrea. It's FOCAC, under FOCAC's mechanism.
Okay, everything is already mentioned by Jerry, by the way. He explained it very widely. But in general, what I want to say about the FOCAC achievement is that, as we know that the FOCAC was found in 2000, it's a key platform that encourages many African countries to have good and deep relationship with China. And if you look also to the other way, China is among the leading economic country. So for Africa, it's a good advantage to have good relation with China, if you look at broadly. So many African countries are now joining the platform, I think. As we know that when it was held in Beijing in 2nd September,
yes.
At least around 50 African countries are representing. So it's progressing when you see it in this way. So I have some points to raise some. From 2000 to 2002, China has built in Africa over 10,000 kilometer railway, nearly 100,000 kilometer highway, 100 ports, 130 hospitals, 250 schools, and over 50 stadiums in Africa. So this is, I think, some example among the many achievements of the FOCAC. In general, I can explain in this way by that.
Okay. You mentioned the highway. Have you drive on either of them?
Yes. I already used the high-speed train.
Yes.
I'm really enjoying that. I moved around with my colleagues in many places in China by the highway.
Wow.
So it's very fantastic. And even I'm very impressed by especially in Beijing, the infrastructure that, especially about the transport system, I'm very impressed. It's very, very developed.
Because in China, we have an ancient wisdom saying that rather than give somebody a fish, it's a good way to tell them how to go fishing. Yes.
Yeah.
So as far as China has its own experiences, we would very much love to share our experiences and our new innovative technologies with all the friends around the world.
Sure.
Yeah. And speaking of the FOCAC, we have another mechanism, that is the Belt and Road Initiative. Last year it marks its 10th anniversary, and now it's entering its 11th year. So the Belt and Road Initiative have fostered the infrastructure's development, as well as those in the areas and fields such as the transport, the energy, the telecom. So there are so many cooperative things among the Belt and Road Initiative's projects. So Mr. Samuel, I would very much love to listen from your perspective that how Belt and Road Initiative has changed your perspective and also your, the situation there in Ghana.
Yeah, thank you very much. The Belt and Road Initiative, for me, is just a game changer, because looking at what this kind of initiative is doing in African countries is so marvelous and so amazing, because you notice that in Africa, one of our major challenges has to do with the infrastructure. And then the infrastructure, we can talk of educational infrastructure, we can talk of health-wise, because quality healthcare delivery is very, very important, is key. And then in most of African countries, quality healthcare delivery is so difficult. Accessing those facilities, especially in the rural areas, is so difficult. So under the Belt and Road Initiative, there was a lot of declaration by President CGTN at the FOCAC that we will be getting a lot of support from the experts that is in the health sector. They will come to Africa and then help train our people, because when you look at even the doctor-to-patient ratio, it's not encouraging in most African countries. So if we get the experts to train or try to impart some knowledge about how they run their health system here, our health doctors, and then even the nurse to patient ratio is not also encouraging in most parts of the African countries. So if we get this initiative, it will help. And then when you also look at the agri sector, almost every part of Africa, particularly Ghana, we have the fertile lands suitable for agriculture. But one major challenge has to do with the equipment for the farming activities. We don't have a lot of infrastructure when it comes to the agri sector too as well. And then when we even visit Niger, where you have the dams, and we notice that yes, if we get these particular dams in Africa, we'll be able to engage in all year-round farming. There won't be like a seasonal. When it's not raining, we cannot go into farming. But if we have this number of dams constructed in most parts of Africa, we can enhance our food security situation. Because, and then again, you even shift from that and you come to the road sector. In Ghana, for instance, I was so glad when they came and constructed in the northern part of the northern capital, that is Tamale, when they're under the Sino Hydro, that is Power China, one of their companies, they constructed an interchange, and it has eased congestion. In a township, you could not pass, especially on Fridays, because that particular region is dominated by Muslims. So when they pray and they are coming out, the whole place is congested. But now that Chinese government supported our country, then they constructed that interchange. As we speak, there is no congestion at that place. And then on the 29th of 28th November 2019, there was a short-cutting huge project that they are going to construct a Kwalugu multi-purpose dam in the upper east region of Ghana. And then that is also under the Sino Hydro, that is a Chinese company. And then they've done the feasibility studies, they've done some kind of preparations have been done towards the construction of that dam. The correct construction of the dam is so strategic because every year, the Burkina Faso, our neighbors, we share border with them, they have a big dam there, and when they spill the dam, the water normally come and then cause flooding in the upper east region of Ghana. So this dam, when constructed, will be able to collect that water for us to be used, and then aside that, that's why they mention Kwalugu multi-purpose dam, because it's going to serve as irrigation and also power. So this is something that's so lovely. And then even hydropower at Bui in the Bono region of Ghana, constructed by the Chinese government. And when I was even talking about the National Theatre Chinese government builds for Ghana, and then even when in 2001, our former president John Ajekum Kufuor, when he took over, the Chinese government gave Ghana again $2.4 million to renovate the theater. So the theater is completely renovated and it's being taken care of by Chinese government. The roads and everything, we have a lot of collaboration, and then under this BRI, the support has been massive for my country. And I can even talk of Benin, for instance. It's also our neighbor. They have a very nice sports stadium constructed under the BRI. So it's like the support has been massive, and then I'm sure, like my colleagues mentioned, you visit all the African countries, you can make mention of at least 1 or 2 projects being constructed under the BRI. And then this is something that is opening up to Africa. And then my major area that I want more of the experts in agriculture here to come to Africa, because Africa will have the arable lands. Because if China, you have only 9% of arable lands, and you are now been producing 25% of the world's cereals. So it means you have the experts that when you move them to Africa, we'll also be able to make good use of our fertile lands that we have there. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I always firmly believe that the essence of people-to-people exchanges are heart-to-heart talks. Yes. So it's always good. I really wonder that you have mentioned your visit to Ningxia, the goji berry factory.
Yes.
Could you share with some of your feelings?
Yes, I was so excited because when I got to the goji berry farm, I noticed that the farm is a desert. So anytime I have some conversation with my colleagues back home, I always tell them that the Chinese people are making the impossible possible. Because if we have these desert lands in Africa, we will not be able to make good use of them. Even when we visited the Chaputu tourist site, the place is desert, but when they mention the amount of money the Chinese government or the China tourism group is raking in every year, it's so huge, because they will be able to add value to the site, and it's raking a lot of revenue for them. A lot of people are employed under the value chain. Then you go to the goji berry that you spoke about. This is the goji berry farm, employing over 3,000 people, and then the value chain. Then they also have a factory that is processing the goji berry. So they have some are for medicinal purpose, some are for food purpose, and a whole lot of things that is happening there. And this is something that I think if we are able to get this kind of support in Africa, a lot of people will be employed. It will go a long way to enhance the living standards of the people, and we will not have issues, because when the youth in particular are not getting employment, it becomes a security threat. That is where we see a lot of robbery issues. We see a lot of even coup. We see a lot of demonstrations because what they need, they are not getting it. Because in Ghana, for instance, we are the second largest producer of cocoa in the whole world. We are just behind Cote d'Ivoire. We produce cashew, and then African, we have a lot of countries that produce coffee, but we export them raw. We don't have the factories that will add value or process them. So we know that what I saw there, if we get those experts to Africa to help us establish these factories, because under the BRI, we've noticed that most Chinese companies are willing to go to Africa and invest in all the key economic sectors. So if we get this kind of support in Africa, I know we'll go a long way, and then it will reduce the unemployment situation and also enhance the living standards of the people. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And Nigeria is also a very key partner under the Belt and Road Initiative. So, Mr. Raphael, I really want to hear from your opinions.
Yeah, thank you. The Belt and Road, like you rightly said, is, and my colleague explained, it's for the world. President Xi is a Chinese vision, but it started in China, but it's for the world. So China is like initiating it, and the world is buying into it. Nigeria didn't join the Belt and Road early. I remember the first International Forum on Belt and Road in May 2017. I was here, and we have about 29 head of government that participated. I know His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta, former president of Kenya, was here, and for 100 international organizations also participated. But Nigeria was missing. We're not even represented at high level because as a data we've not joined the Belt and Road. And you can see the East Africa, Kenya, and others, they've enjoyed the benefit of Belt and Road because they key into it. But basically, Nigeria got itself into Belt and Road in 2018, and within that time to now, we've enjoyed a lot of dividend. And I would like to mention to you, we have Abuja Kaduna Railway that has been built within this time. We have a Lagos Kano Standard Matrix. We have a satellite television project. We have Lagos. This one was just opened last September. Lagos Metro Railway Service launched last September. It has changed the face of Lagos. Lagos is the commercial center of Nigeria. So these are some of the projects that Belt and Road has initiated, and it has been completed. We have problem with power in Nigeria. When it comes to power energy, we are lacking behind. But through this Belt and Road, we have the Chinese government has built a hydropower for us, and this has been completed in Shiroro Dam, and a lot of projects are still ongoing. So if we are coming a bit late behind, but definitely we will get there. But Nigeria has seen it that of a truth, this project, this Belt and Road project, if we key into it, we will go place. So, but with this now, with this Abuja Railway, a lot of employment was created. Some people are being employed. Like I mentioned earlier, we have female driver, we have engineers who are here to learn how to fix. So these are some of the things that we have benefited from the Belt and Road initiative.
Yes, and also I believe China has as well benefit from Nigeria's wisdom. For example, in the CII, we do have Nigeria's exporting.
Yes, Nigeria. Yes, we also participated. That's what I'm saying. Nigeria now say that of a truth, when you move with China, you to be beneficiary. I keep saying with him, this is my word. I say China is a leader, and a leader who knows the way. He's not just going alone. He's showing others, I know the way. Join me, let's go together.
Let's go together, right.
That is the thing.
It's a mutual win.
Yes, that is a leader. He's not, if Africa truly recognizes that this person knows the way and is showing, why not? Because it's going to be beneficiary. So we in Africa, our leadership needs to sit down and recalculate. We've been following our colonial master for a very long time, big country. What has come out of it? Very little. But within this short while with China, we can see advancement everywhere. In my country, in Ghana, in Kenya, in Eritrea, you see China hand. And I say China is involved in every facet in my country. The only thing they don't get involved is they don't get involved with our politics. They don't meddle with our internal affairs. But when it comes to health sector, you see Ghana. When you see technology, you see Ghana. When you talk about infrastructure, you see Ghana. So you see China, I mean. So what am I saying is that Belt and Road has really opened up Africa for the next level.
Yeah. Because I would say China is more of like a more experienced country, because we have a very profound developing history,
Yes.
and we have our miserable history, our backwards, and develop step by step. So we would very love to introduce our experiences to the world.
And definitely is paying off.
Okay, and
let me just add one more example on the Belt and Road Initiative. For example, in Kenya, what I understand about the Belt and Road Initiative is that China's vision is that we can collaborate and we can move easily from one country to another, until you can come from Kenya and travel all either through road or either through railway until reach China. So for example, in my country, there's a LAPSET program, that is the Lamu Port South Sudan Ethiopia trans highway. So if you come to Lamu, which is at the coastal line, you can travel from Lamu all the way to Ethiopia, to Djibouti, to Egypt, until you are able to even to reach China if you decide to go by road. So I just wanted to highlight that as well, that is also part of the Belt and Road Initiative that has already begun in Kenya and is about 60% complete. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And this time I also want to mention that China and Africa, their cooperation, the fruit of the cooperation is not just mutual, it's global, because China and Africa has joined hands to tackle so many global challenges, for example, the climate change. So I'm really, I want to ask Mr. Samuel to tell us about our cooperation on tackling climate change.
Yeah, for the climate change issue, I'm sure it is so important because when you look at the situation we find ourselves, climate change is really eating deep into everything that we do. It has even changed the rainfall pattern in most African countries, particularly my country, for instance. In those days, I remember somewhere in the 1996, 1995, thereabout, in most parts of the southern part of Ghana, we used to start the farming as early as February. We start sowing in February. But as we speak, because of, I'll say, lack of a poor attitude towards the environment, indiscriminate felling of trees, and then illegal mining is also causing a lot of harm to environment, and it's also affecting climate change situation in most parts of the country. And I'm sure this is not peculiar to only Ghana. Most African countries also have their share of this issue of climate change. And then when you read through even the BRI, the supports that they want to give to us, the experts in agriculture, because I know if we engage in responsible farming, good agronomic practices, it will go a long way to change the whole narrative. Because when you come to look at the farming, for instance, you are told not to be burning the bush anyhow. People would just go and then set fire and be just for hunting, to chase rodents and then grass cutters among others, and that is not helping the environment. So China promising to send experts in agriculture, over 500 agricultural extension officers to Africa to help the African countries, particularly those in the players in the agri sector. It would have a way of supporting us in making sure that we respond to issues like mining positively. We respond to issues like farming positively. And when we pay serious attention to the environment, not burning the bush, because a lot of people are even suffering. Because like I mentioned, we have a lot of cashew farms and we have a lot of cocoa farms. And these are crops or tree crops that have dry leaves under them all the time. Especially during the dry season, most farms get burnt because of indiscriminate burning of the bush. And if we get these experts down there to help us, we will not have issues with that, because even the illegal mining is causing a lot of harm in Ghana. And that has to do with polluting river bodies. So it is not helping. And then, when the waters are polluted, even when they are being treated, it will still not be clean water or potable water for the residents to drink. And that is causing a lot of health issues, in particular in most of the rural areas where people rely on the rivers for potable water for their household chores and others. So it is not really helping. So I believe that looking at climate change, it is not helping at all. And we think that if we get more experts from China to collaborate with our experts, because in Ghana we have the Forestry Commission and then the Wildlife Commission. They are in charge of preserving our environment. We have the Environmental Protection Agency. They are also in charge of making sure they contribute their quota towards preserving the environment. So if we get a whole support under the Belt and Road Initiative, and they come over, making sure that they help us draw attention to certain things. They said the one creating the path doesn't know it is crooked. It is the one behind him who would detect that, no, the path you are creating is not the best. And that has to do with the experts that you have here. Because when we went to Zhongwei, where we have one, even I took the book, the man is into preservation of the desert. If somebody is able to control the wind, the sun in the desert, not to be moving anyhow or being moving towards a direction that they don't want, it means they can also support us in making sure that when we cut trees, we replace them, we don't burn the bush, and we respect the environment. We don't do things that will harm the environment and it will cause or change the rainfall pattern. Because now that, like I said, we used to plant somewhere in February, in most parts of the southern part of Ghana. And then in April, the northern part of Ghana, they start planting. These days, it has changed to the extent that now it has to start, first farming has to start around May. And we used to have 2 seasons in the southern part of Ghana. That is gradually changing to a 1 season. And that is also threatening our food security. So it is something that I think that it is in a good direction if we get support from the Chinese government and the experts here to come and then help us deal with climate change, and not in Ghana alone, in African countries as a whole.
Yeah, thank you so much. So many experiences. And Mr. Rawlings, I want to hear from you, the Kenya side.
Climate change is a phenomenon that cuts across globally. It's something that each country needs to take into consideration, because the effects of climate change are very devastating. The effects of climate change includes drought, it includes earthquakes, it includes cyclone. So the effects are very devastating. In my country, for example, some of the effects of climate change has been drought and famine, and you find that there are some parts of the country that can go for 2 to 3 years without rain. And most of the African countries, we rely on rain-fed agriculture. So without the rain, we cannot even produce food that is enough to cater for our needs. So one of the ways is to deal with the climate change is afforestation, planting of more trees, so that each country needs to plant more trees to increase the forest cover. If we don't do that, the generation to come will have very, very severe consequences, because each and every year the ozone layer is being torn, and these are some of the things that is increasing the global warming, and various effects of climate change. But I'm happy that China is leading in this issue of climate change, and most times when there are conventions on climate, like we had the Kigali Convention, Azerbaijan Convention, we had the Dubai COP28, you see most of the countries are really giving their efforts towards towards improving on how to mitigate the climate change. And I'm happy with China, because they've set themselves a target that by 2030 they should have at least reduced the carbon emissions to some level, which I find very interesting, because that is the first way, that's the first stage of dealing with climate change. And I wish those other countries like Japan, USA, those countries that are really having so much in terms of industrial industrial pollution, they should take this advantage and at least take their responsibility and just cut the carbon emissions by even 50%. Maybe they give themselves like 10 years. In the next 20 to 30 years, they shall have really decreased the carbon emissions to the ozone layer. And my country, for example, I'm happy with President William Ruto. When he came into government in 2022, he gave himself that by the end of 5 years, Kenya, we shall have planted more than 15 billion trees. Yes. And as we speak, Kenya has planted more than 10 million trees. Yes. So we just hope that in the next 3-4 years, we shall be able to increase the forest cover by even 30%.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Just looking from the outer space perspective, yes. I would say the Earth is only a little planet. Yes. Yes. You can see we share the same ocean, same atmosphere. Yeah. So nothing is more important than cherish our mutual home together. Yeah. Yeah. Sure. So I firmly believe that China and Africa can play pivotal role in cherishing our homeland. Yes.
And one thing that I want to add is that, you know, the one thing that will also help us a lot is if the Chinese government is able to collaborate with us in trying to help us with the clean energy that my colleague is talking about. Because if we don't have a lot of pollution, it will also help us a lot, because we've seen a lot of electric cars here in China. If we are able to collaborate effectively with China and get these kind of electric cars in our country to reduce the pollution, because in most African countries, it's only when you move to the rural areas that you have access to clean air. But in the major cities, you face a lot of challenges with air pollution. This has to do with the petrol cars that we are using. But if they are all
new energy vehicles,
we would not have problem, because the EVs is making a good account for themselves. They are doing so well in the globally in terms of the effectiveness or how they run, and the lifespan of these EVs. So getting it into African countries will also help. And then the solar, like my colleague mentioned, we have a lot of challenges when it comes to stable power, because there are a lot of power outages in most parts of Africa. And then you mentioned of Nigeria, Ghana too, we also have our challenge. So if we are able to get a lot of solar, it will help a lot, because like I was saying from the beginning, the hydro power that the Chinese government constructed for us, that's the Bui power hydro at in the Bono region, that the German South district, for instance, it has been able, and then that is serving a multi-purpose district, because those days there were a lot of floods in that area. The Bui power, when they constructed, it is serving for helping the farmers to engage themselves in all year-round farming. Also, curbed or prevented or resolved the annual flooding in the area, and also producing power. So those around that place, a lot of people have been employed. So if we get this kind of supports, the renewable energy, the EVs, or the electric cars, it will help us a lot.
Yes,
thank you.
I believe so. So one final question, because as media professionals, it's our responsibility to strengthen the communication between all the countries. And so I believe, I understand that you have spent months here in China. You have visited so many places. And so Mr. Raphael, could you please tell us your experiences? And I would very much love to learn from you that how do we strengthen our media cooperation so as to deepen the understanding between the people of our two countries?
Yeah, thank you. This is one of the things I advocate for. Let me take you back. I'm making reference to FOCAC because we saw practical, this thing we are saying is practical. Practical in the sense that during the FOCAC, we had over 3,000 journalists accredited. That's international and local. And you see every one of us working together. And the coverage that the program event was massive. Everywhere in Nigeria, in Ghana, in Kenya, everybody was talking about FOCAC. We were talking about Forum of Africa, China and Africa. Everywhere it was, the momentum was sustained. But after FOCAC now is about 2 months, now after 3 months, the tempo is going down. So those are the things we're talking about. To be able to help as media men, it's time for us to sit down and double up our assignment. Now, there should be more collaboration. I want to thank you to CIPCC for bringing us together. We've gone around now and we've learned a lot of things about China. So by the time I go back to Nigeria, he go back to Ghana, he go back to Kenya, he go back to Eritrea. Our writing now is the way we write will be different from because we have gained valuable experience. Now we need to do more people-to-people exchange. So journalists in Africa and journalists in China should collaborate more. Like I said, during the FOCAC, everybody was collaborating, and the news was going everywhere. But this time around, FOCAC is no longer there. We should devise other means of keeping the tempo. We should have more exchange visits between, just as we are here, somebody was saying earlier that we should also organize Chinese should go to Africa, because the mode of media relation, the way we relate media is quite different. The method in Africa is not the same method here. So there are differences. So we need to collaborate together. We need to share more information. Most time we depend on third hand, which is the Western world
Media.
and Western media. And because of that, there are a lot of propaganda, misinformation. Because if you read through what some of the Western media is writing about Belt and Road, is not the true story. So we that know the true story, we need to do more. So I'm soliciting for more exchanges between both people. Then we should also do more fact-finding story. We should do more we should do more of a documentary. Okay, I'm here in Nigeria. Claire is there in China. We'll fact check together, produce report together with Nigeria input, with China input. This will help project. Then also we should write accurately. We should double up more than before. So that we eradicate middlemen. When I say middlemen, that is the Western media is the middleman. So there should be more of Chinese presence in Africa and more of Chinese presence in Nigeria. Now, in back home, on cable, we have those Western media. I don't want to mention name. We don't have more of Chinese. So henceforth, we should have more Chinese program on an African radio, more African radio on Chinese radio, on Chinese media. Then with this, we'll be able to collaborate and push the relationship forward. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I believe we have a saying, seeing is believing.
Definitely.
When you come here, you see the difference, as CGTN says. Yeah. Come over and see the real China. And I also want to have this opportunity to see the real Africa.
You are invited.
Yes, thank you so much. So it's about time to conclude our session today. On the path to modernization, no one or no country should be left behind.
Yes.
And I sincerely wish that in the future, let's go hand in hand and bring about a brighter future of prosperity, security, and progress for all the world. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for
Thank you.
having us. Thank you so much. We are grateful.